Hi everyone, it's Shannon and welcome to my channel, The Daily DIYer. Today is an incredibly special day as I'm hosting a fun Christmas in July, so I'm just one of 10 channels that are going to bring you tons of holiday inspiration today. So if you're looking for tons of holiday inspiration a little bit early this year, make sure to check the description box below where I'll have a link to that playlist. I also wanted to mention that I have a whole nother YouTube channel, so if you aren't aware of that, it's actually a channel dedicated to all things Christmas. So I'm kicking off the holiday season today on that channel, so make sure to head over there too, subscribe, and you'll get lots of holiday inspiration throughout the rest of the year. And if you're new here, I want to say welcome. I would love to have you subscribe as you'll find budget-friendly DIYs, home decor, and inspiration here every single week. So now I was trying to come up with an idea of something summertime, being July, that I could use for Christmas time decor. So I came up with the idea of hacking some pool noodles. Obviously you can find these pretty much anywhere, department stores, even Dollar Tree, that's where mine are from, and we are going to hack these and use them for Christmas decor. So let's go ahead and jump right into today's video. Alright, so first, pool noodle Christmas hack. We're just gonna pretend because my tree is fake, but if you have any live tree in your home during Christmas time, this is a great hack. Saves you from having to bend over to water your Christmas trees. You can just use a pool noodle. So you just stick this down into your base where your water is contained. You can take a funnel, put it right into the hole of the pool noodle, and then use your container of water to fill. Now obviously you need to be a little bit careful, maybe measure out your water in your container first so you know how much will be going into the bottom. You don't just keep filling because obviously then it will spill over. This is a great way to water your Christmas trees without having to get down there and hurt your back. And now let's make some faux peppermint candies. I'm going to be cutting down my pool noodle with a regular kitchen knife to the size of this scrapbook paper. This is 8.5 by 11 size. I got it from Hobby Lobby. It was only about 50 cents a piece, so I grabbed a couple, and I'm making it that 8.5 inch wide length so that I can just easily wrap these up. Of course, you can make them smaller or larger if you like to, depending on your paper size. And you can even use wrapping paper for this. So that would probably be an even more economical way because you get tons more if you can find some peppermint wrapping paper. So what I've done is just wrapped that paper around the pool noodle and used some clear tape to attach it down onto the back side. And I'm just gonna be wrapping these with some clear cellophane. You can get these at department stores, you can even get it at Dollar Tree. It's just a big roll of clear wrapping paper basically. And I cut this one down to size a few inches longer than the size of my peppermint candy. And again, I'm just using some clear Scotch tape for the back of this and then using some small cute ribbon that coordinated to tie off the ends. These would definitely make cute ornaments for a themed Christmas tree. You could even make them bigger and use them outside if you have a covered porch, or you could throw these into a garland. Lots of different ideas how you can utilize these, and I just love them. I think I'm gonna make tons of these for Christmas this year. All right, so now we're gonna make a candy cane out of a pool noodle. But we need to do a little bit of Christmas magic to make that happen. But before I show you that, we gotta turn this into what looks like a peppermint. So I have some Dollar Tree white duct tape that I'm just gonna wrap around the pool noodle first.
Down, we stay up waiting for Santa tonight. He climbs down the chimney at the speed of light while we're dancing around the...
All right, so here's my pool noodle. Looking like a candy cane, except now we gotta do the magic. So what you do, fold it, and the magic, which will hold that down, is fishing string. So I'm just gonna tie it around the pool noodle to hold it, and you won't see it because it's clear.
Chasing snowflakes as they're
Now let's make some wintertime birch candles. I am cutting my pool noodle down to 3 tiered sizes. Now I only had 2 pieces of this scrapbook paper, again from Hobby Lobby, to work with, so I was trying to work within the size that I had. So I made them as big as I could, and then they didn't quite have a very nice look to them. It was a little bit too dramatic of a stair-step look, so I went back in and cut one down a little bit so that I could get that medium range size and make it a little bit smaller. Now what we need to do is we need to paint the tops of these. So I have my white chalk paint, and as you can see, you kind of have to push the paint down into the foam because you can still see some of that red poking through. So I did do 1 coat, let that dry. So this is what it looks like after 1 coat, and then after 2 coats, much better. You can still kind of see it, but it's not too noticeable. Once we have that done, I laid my noodle onto the paper and then trimmed it down to the right height, maybe just a little bit taller to make sure I had good coverage and you didn't see any of that red on the sides. Wrapped them up, used some Scotch tape to keep them together, and popped some battery-powered tea lights on top. Alright, so now let's make the cutest little elf guy using pool noodles. Basically, all I did was measure a long pool noodle and cut it in half. These are going to be his legs. I also have a hat and some feet. You can find these at Dollar Tree during the holidays, or I ordered these off Amazon, so I'll link these down below if you're looking for some, because these were only like maybe $4 or $5 for the set. Pretty inexpensive. You could even probably take some felt and make your own. Now his legs, I want them to look like he's wearing some candy cane socks, so I'm going to take my white duct tape and wrap them around the legs.
'Cause I missed you, so I'm letting go of everything but you. These are the good times with you, baby, this year.
Alright, so I have both of my pool noodles all wrapped, and here's a little bit of a tip. I did try to line up where my stripes are, just so when we put it together, it kind of has more of a cohesive look. I'm also going to make sure that the seams from the tape where it overlaps are going to be in the back, so you don't see that sort of difference in the color of the stripes. So the other item that I have to make this is some tissue paper. We're going to stuff our hat and our shoes so they don't flop over like that.
Making our Christmas memories. I've been wrapping presents for you.
Alright, so now to put our little elf guy together, I'm just going to take one end of a pool noodle, stick it right down into one of the elf shoes, which mine has some good elastic on it, so it's going to hold the pool noodle really, really nicely. So I'm going to use the green sides to contrast nice with the red pool noodle. Turn my tape ends to the back side. So you can see these shoes actually have 2 sides, so it's kind of cool. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other shoe. Alright, well, I just realized my elf might have 2 left feet, so I'm actually going to have to do one green side and one red side, just so they look like he has 2 feet instead of 2 of the same feet. So that's kind of a bummer. I was hoping to use the red side, but I guess that's one of the glitches of these 2-sided shoes when you order off Amazon. So keep an eye out if you're looking for these in the store, that you either just purchase green shoes, or if you like the red, you can do the red too. So now that I have my feet, I'm just gonna stick my hat right on top. And there you have it, such a cute little elf guy.
Baby, this year it's just gonna be you and me. Hanging by the fire, isn't this how it's supposed to be?
Alright, now let's make a cute little reindeer guy. Sticker off. I'm gonna start with some brown felt and my hot glue gun. I'm actually just going to wrap the top of my pool noodle with this felt all the way around like that. I'm going to use my hot glue to affix it. Alright, so you can see here I ended up adding a second piece of felt just because I had it and figured it doesn't hurt, since might as well just use it up. Because what we're going to do is actually take this and we're going to fold it over just like we did with our candy cane, except this time I'm going to use some jute to tie mine up instead of the fishing line, because we're going to want this pretty tight. We're going to tie it as flat as we can, and we're also going to cover up this jute, and you're not really going to see it anyway, so it doesn't have to be clear like the candy cane. And now we're going to add some of the fun details of our little reindeer to give him a face. So I have some big wiggly eyes for the eyeballs, obviously, some pom-poms for the nose. I'm going to use this ribbon that I have on hand for the little harness that's going to cover up our jute. And I also want to give them some ears and antlers, so I have some cardstock that is the craft paper. I tried to find some felt that was the stiff kind because I would prefer to use that. It's a little bit more soft, but since I couldn't find that and I didn't have any on hand, we're going to make do and use the craft paper instead. These would be such a fun project for kiddos to do. Then they could kind of ride their little reindeers like horses. So fun. Pool noodles also make the perfect wreath forms that you can use all year long, not just at Christmas time. You just spin them around so that you make a circle with them and you have a wreath. But here's a little tip. What I'm going to do here is, instead of using hot glue, which actually just kind of melts into the pool noodle, I'm actually going to cut my pool noodle down just a little bit so I don't have too big of a wreath. And I'm going to use some green duct tape to attach this all together. I did do this a few different times, so I had a good patch right there in the middle, so it's not going to come undone. And here's another tip. You can also wrap your pool noodle in whatever colored duct tape that you're going to be creating your wreath in. So obviously green is kind of more of a traditional color, so I went with that. I was going to cover my entire pool noodle or wreath with some ornaments. Unfortunately, I don't think I had enough ornaments on hand, so I ended up coming in and just covering my wreath in some Christmas ribbon. So I probably could have foregone doing all of that duct tape, since I'm just going to be covering this with ribbon anyway, and the red probably would have been fine underneath this ribbon. So just kind of depending on what style wreath and what look you're going for, you can either cover with duct tape or skip that altogether. But what I'm doing here is just wrapping my 3-inch size ribbon around and around the wreath until I have it completely covered. I did use some hot glue to help me hold that down. So the duct tape definitely does help when it comes to the hot glue, because your hot glue is going to attach to the duct tape much better than if you just glue it straight onto the foam pool noodle. And then just as a bonus, let's make a wreath bow, because these are kind of a staple during the Christmas time. So I'm making one loop with my ribbon. I kind of had to make it a little bit bigger, so I'm using my wreath as a guide for sizing. Once I had the size loop I wanted, I twisted it in the middle to make my second loop, and I'm going to continue this process throughout, twisting in the middle, making a new loop on the other side, also trying to keep my loops all about the same size as the one underneath it. Now we need to tie off the middle. I always cut an extra long length of smaller ribbon in the color of the bow that I'm creating to help tie off the middle. We're gonna need this to help us attach the bow to the wreath here shortly. So I'm just tying really good knots to make sure those loops all stay in place. Then what I'm gonna do is actually cut off this tail, because we're gonna make a completely separate tail that we can add onto the back. So I'm just adding a second length of ribbon, cutting that off, and then adding that onto the back of the bow, onto those pieces of ribbon. That is the point where we're going to actually attach this bow onto the wreath, and then we can do some more decorating.
I'm walking around feeling free.
So you definitely want to fluff the loops on your bow, and then you can add in some greenery, some more ribbon if you wanted to. I'm just adding some of those red glitter ornaments because I thought that would really make it pop. I definitely don't think anybody would know that that is a pool noodle inside your wreath. Such a cute project. Now make sure to head down to the description box for the link to the playlist full of Christmas in July inspiration. I want to thank you all so much for joining me today, and I will see you in the next one. Happy crafting.